Welcome, boxing fans around the world, to another exciting edition of the Friday Night Panel featuring Lou Eisen, Mike, yes, Mike who shit himself, and Grumpy Graham. All right,
Cheer up, Mike.
Yeah. It's not Halloween. It's Thanksgiving in the United States, and here we are, entertaining you. All right.
Well, that's why Jamel Charlo weighed in 3 pounds over, eh?
Who did?
Turkey sandwiches.
Oh.
Every time my American friends say Happy Thanksgiving to me now, have you been to Canada in November? There's nothing to be thankful for up here.
No. Every time I hear it, I'm like, it's not October.
That's right.
Yeah. You guys are morons.
Mm-hmm.
So
I could not find the result. I searched and I searched and I searched. Because that girl who's fighting, I'm pretty sure the French girl's undefeated.
Sigaline Lebrev?
Yeah, Lefebvre, and she was fighting this young English girl who's 6-1, who's the pride of Luton, and apparently there's a famous football club out of Luton.
I like the way you say that.
I like my boxers Luton free.
All right.
I'm not ready for that yet, guys.
Okay.
I just healed.
Okay.
That dirty version of COVID that was going around.
All right. So what do we got lined up for this show?
Everything.
Benavidez.
Yeah. It's gonna be a great one.
I think
honestly, today we had 25th tomorrow, 2 p.m.
We had some weigh-ins today.
Yeah, we did have weigh-ins today. Come on, Jamel Charlo, 3 pounds over. How do you do that as a professional, really?
That's unfocused. I mean, yeah. I weighed in 127 pounds over, but I'm a fat tub of goo. But he's a professional fighter. I mean, that's not excusable.
Yeah, that's some bad timing, or you just didn't want to hit the sauna after the turkey dinner.
Yeah, who's he fighting coming up?
Oh, he's fighting the other Benavidez.
Right. Oh, okay.
Tomorrow. So we got David taking on Demetrius. That one's for the WBC interim super middleweight title, and then we got Charlo versus Benavidez Jr. and that one's a 10-round fight, middleweight division. I like the first fight that I see here, Sabril Matthias. This kid's really good. This one's gonna be a 12-round fight for Matthias's IBF junior welterweight title. So that's some great action on that card.
Yeah. Benavidez, David Benavidez, he doesn't really. I mean, he got stopped by Crawford, who hasn't, but he I've never seen him come up big in a big fight. He beat David Lemieux, but Lemieux was a shot fighter who was over the hill.
Right.
And not take anything away, Lemieux was a world champion, great fighter, but he hasn't come up big against anyone. He's more mouth. And Andrade, I think, is a better fighter than he's being given credit for. Yeah. He hasn't lost. He hasn't had the level of competition of Canelo, but I don't think
Andre's a good. I like him too. He is up there. He's 35. 32-0, 19 knockouts. He's a good fighter. He gets overlooked. He doesn't
have an outsized personality, which doesn't. He's very soft spoken, which doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't sell fights.
No,
right? You really never know when this guy's gonna fight because you never hear it until you're like, oh my god, he's on the card. Okay,
that's right.
But
I'm reading this book, Thunder and Lightning, about Arturo and Joe Gotti by my friend Joe Body and from New Jersey. And Gotti lost fights, but he was such a thrill to watch that he'd have his next fight, and that person would say, "Wait a minute, I'm the champion. Why is he getting twice as much?" Because his name sells out HBO and everything else. It's who sells out, who puts asses in the seats.
Exactly. That's what it's always been.
And
this is good. This is going to be a great card. Benavidez, I like watching this kid. I like how he can just let those hands go. He's just one of those guys that can just throw it on, turn it on. 20 unanswered punches kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope he's able to do that against Andrade to see what Andrade can come back with, because there's so many fighters. There's very few fighters in the history of the sport who are able to do that. because we've all seen fighters who look great in one fight, and in the next fight you're thinking, why aren't you letting your hands go? You can't. And the trainer will say, if you don't punch, win. Let your hands go, but they just won't.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a big card though too. Like they're only mentioned in the 3 when you're reading up about it, but we got Hector Luis Garcia is on here. We got Vito Malecki Jr., Daniel Blancas, and then there's some up and comers here, man. Javin Schultz, Alex Hawley. It should be a great card. We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 fights. So this is gonna be a long night. USA Showtime pay-per-view. They always do it pretty big. Garcia is fighting Roach for the WBA World Super Feather title on this card. So shout out to Samson Boxing and TGB Promotions for putting this one together.
Yeah, I'm sort of afraid to tell my wife that it's like 10 to 12 fights.
Yeah. Sergey Lipinets is on it. He's taking on Michael Rivera. That should be a really good fight.
The one that looks like a young Ali.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? As soon as I clicked on his name, yes, exactly. And you hit the nail right on the head there.
And didn't Lipinets fight to a draw of Custio Clayton?
Yes, I believe he did.
Yeah.
I do believe he did.
Because I remember
Custio Clayton. Yeah.
After the fight, Goosen spoke with Goosen briefly, and he said that, Custio was really well prepared. I said, your guy lost, and you know it. You got a gift.
Yeah. Well, after that, he did lose to Jaron Ennis. He got knocked out in the 6th round for the scheduled 12.
Yeah.
Lipinets was down in rounds 4 and 6 for that one. Then after that, he took he went the 8th round stoppage in a 12-rounder. He took on Omar Figueroa Jr. And then now he's taking on Rivera. So this is
no easy fights.
No, it's not. It's not.
This can't be good for Lipinets. I mean, to have so many tough fights in such a short time span.
But at the end of the day, those Kazakhstanians, man, they got a way in that ring where they can surprise you at any moment in time.
Right.
They call it that Kazakh style, right? That Kazakh style of boxing. They just they can be explosive at times, but then there's times where they're just boring. So we'll see who shows up. Really.
Right. There's very few like Triple G. He was an outlier.
Right.
There were very few fighters from anywhere that were able to not only be as technically great, but brutally powerful with their shots.
Yeah. No, it was yeah. There's nobody like that yet. There's no Triple G. There's no second coming of him. We haven't seen it yet. I would know because I watch all these young guys coming up. So I haven't seen it yet. There are some promising prospects. We'll be touching on that next week. So stay tuned for some new people to watch. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I know that Triple G, when he was an amateur, had to fight Bitabiev.
Yeah.
And I know if you're on this side of the Atlantic, you're thinking, oh my God, who do I fight? Yeah. Ali or Joe Frazier? Well, it doesn't matter. They're both going to kill me. So these guys are getting in the ring against each other thinking, oh man, I'm better than you. I mean, the training they got was phenomenal, but also, they went up against tough guys where there's people in boxing. Well, I'm not going to go into it. There's a certain female boxer with the first name Mandy, who's Canadian, who is always getting.
Mandy what?
Pardon me?
What is it? No, it's not Candy. You said Mandy or Candy?
Mandy with an M.
Oh, okay.
And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's enough.
She's really not accomplished anything, and yet she gets all this press. And when I speak to other people in boxing, they're like, she never won a single international match. She participated in the Olympics by being there and at the Pan Am Games and that, but everywhere you see her, master boxer, brilliant boxer, one of Canada's best, and you think, no, Lennox Lewis won a gold medal. What did you?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this card. To be honest, we got Paddy Donovan in action again. This one's at the 3 Arena in Dublin. This card's gonna be great. Lots of good fighters on here. We got the women on this card: Chantel Cameron, Katie Taylor, man, for the IBF, IBO, WBA, WBC, WBO titles, man. This for all the straps. And then the co-main event is Patty Donovan taking on Danny Ball. That should be a really great fight. We all know Patty Donovan has to be the prettiest boxer in boxing today. The guy's got that model-looking face, and he seems to leave every fight, untouched. 11-0 right now in that welter division. Danny Ball 13-1-1. Both these guys are going to go at it real hard.
That reminds me of the movie Raging Bull, when he was fighting when LaMotta fought Tony Gennaro, and the wife said he looks pretty. And after the fight, the mobster said he don't look pretty no more.
That reminds me of Rich Franklin from the UFC. He was the good-looking math teacher and this and that. And then we had Anderson Silva come in and shatter his nose and flatten against his face. He never looked the same. He recouped. He came back. He fought Anderson Silva again, and Anderson Silva did the exact same thing and just crushed his nose. And now it's flat against his face like this. So
yeah,
it's only a matter of time.
Before we went on air for the publishing company, I was just telling Graham I signed with Thunder and Press. I'm editing my I think it's like 12 or 13 chapters. I should know that, shouldn't I? Anyways, yes. I'm working on the first Dempsey Willard, the only Dempsey Willard fight. And the first punch, the first knockdown, Dempsey hit him with a left hook and broke his jaw in 13 places. And then when he got up, because you could stand right over a guy, he hit him with the right hand and knocked out 10 teeth. And you could see people, if you watch the tape, leaning into the ring to grab Willard's teeth. He broke his nose.
That's great.
Broke his nose, his cheekbone. It's right. The right side of his face, his eye was closed after 40 seconds, and so all this and in the chapter I just mentioned that I give Willard credit because he got up. He dropped 7 times. He still kept getting up, and he went as far as he said. I went as far as my ability could carry me. And
those are the times where you have to save the boxer from himself. Because,
and he quit after the 3rd round, and the only guy to do that was after him was Liston. So, but the beating was I've never seen a beating like that before, in a ring or on a street. It was, they said it was like Dempsey had 6 friends with him. So, yeah.
Oh man!
I mentioned one last thing. I mentioned that Dempsey came at him as if Willard had called his mother a whore. I mean, that's how ferociously he attacked him.
Your mom's an asshole.
And then Dempsey just came out and obliterated him.
Oh wow! So we also got Gary Cully, Reese Mould. I like Gary Cully. I like watching this kid fight. Another talented kid. Then we got Sky Nicholson and Lucy Wildheart. We've had her on the show before when she was, up and coming. She really made a name for herself in her last fight.
Yep.
She took on Michaela Mayer.
Yep.
Michaela Mayer, and she took her the distance. And I believe it was only a couple days' notice, maybe a week's notice that she had, where she stepped in, she stepped up. And she's suffered a loss now. But hey,
that's something in boxing that has to be addressed. Because so many boxers we've all spoken to say, we'll give you a fight with this guy or this woman, but they're the champion. Okay, but I'm going to need 2 months. No, you got 10 days. Take it or leave it. And they do that on purpose to ensure that they're going to retain the title. If you really want a fair fight, give me the 2 months.
But, it's true. It's true. But then you have those situations where it's like, oh, okay. Well, if you knew they weren't going to make the fight, why did you wait so long? Why did you wait so long to come up? It's just all that politic bull crap that goes on in boxing.
Yeah.
And, I hate this whole stigma that's around it now about the O. It's you got to keep that O. You got to do this.
That only exists in men's boxing.
That only exists in boxing today because champions are too afraid to fight each other because they're afraid of losing, and promoters are afraid of losing their cash cows. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We need to see champions fighting each other, you know?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day of battling Nelson in the 20s, you know, you would have in the early 1900s, you would have guys that would enter a title fight with 90 fights under the belt, and the records would be 74, 12, and 4. And yeah, they lost 12 fights, but they won 74, 70 by knockout. Who cares?
There's guys that have lost 170 fights that are still fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, it just,
and surprisingly, some of those guys make more money than the other guys because they get a regular paycheck.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like Marciano. He lost to I think I mentioned this before. He lost to Tiger Ted Lowry, and in New England, and he Lowry hit him a punch in the solar plexus. Marciano's knee hit him in the groin. Lowry went down. Marciano was disqualified. Later that night, the mob had it changed to a draw, then a no contest, and by morning it was a Marciano victory.
And what book can we read that about?
You could. I'll let you know. It's a book I have on Marciano that mentions that,
okay.
And Bert Sugar told me that too. And it's just one of those things where, when they asked years later, Tiger Ted Lowry, you know, why didn't you say anything? He said, you know, when a mob guy comes up and puts a gun to your head and said, this is how it's going to be, the only thing you can say is, yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's it.
And then he's off to the bookies to collect his winnings.
Yeah. You got to feel sorry for those bookies. 6 fights, they still have to pay up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. Yeah, that was a big card. But then we got the Benavidez card.
My money's on Sky Nicholson, by the way.
You know what? Yeah, Sky Nicholson, I think, has a bit better of an arsenal in her repertoire. She's got more. What I've noticed in the Mayer fight with Lucy Wildheart was she's too come forward, straight. Right. No, not enough head movement. She's not getting out of the way. She's just coming straight and just throwing the big right that she has, or her big left. But she's got a lot of power because she is a power lifter. She competes in like fitness competitions and stuff like that. And, if you watch her on Instagram and stuff, she's lifting big weight, man. She could pick up some men and throw them around if she had to. But
how much?
Exactly.
How much do I have to pay for
that? Well, we can contact her and find out for you.
Well, I'd prefer Heather Hardy, but that's fine.
Oh God.
But yeah, people don't realize in boxing how difficult it is to hit someone when they're moving their head. To hit a moving target, you have to be extremely skilled, which was why, Chavalos told me that the toughest guy to hit was Frazier because he was bobbing and weaving. You couldn't time him. And so guys like that were very difficult to fight, whereas fighters that come at you and square up, which is what Gotti wanted, are easy to fight because they're presenting you with an open target.
Yeah, and those are the guys that usually can't talk now.
Yeah, unfortunately, they take too much of a beating. And yeah, I was just sad. One of my chapters is about Ad Wolgast and Mexican Joe Rivers. It's the famous double knockdown where they both go down, but the referee who was paid off by Wolgast helps Wolgast up, counts to 3. Rivers gets up and he says, "You lose." And he said, "But you've only counted to 3. I'm up." But what's sad was Wolgast, by the time he was 25, didn't know who or where he was. And that's because in 12 years, and he boxed another 60 fights after that. He was declared incompetent in 1917, but he had 144 fights in a 12-year span. 12 fights a year, 20, 30, 40 rounds, taking 8, 10, 15 punches to land 1. And all of them from back then ended up like that. Homeless, indigent, brains bashed in, and it's just sad. My friend William Detloff, who I interviewed on my show, said boxing isn't rags to riches; it's rags to riches and back to rags. That's the true story. Because most guys end up with nothing.
Rags to nursing home.
Even today they end up with nothing.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that they don't take care of them that way.
Well, but it's also sad they don't have someone they can trust because they spend all their money because they think the paydays are coming in.
Right.
Andrew Roberto, who's fighting again against Roberto. I can't remember his name now. Anyways, he already lost to this guy 10 years ago. And at the Hall of Fame, when Lennox was getting inducted in 2008, 2009, he was showing off his $100,000 watch. And Lennox said during a speech, that has to be, showing that off has to be maybe the single stupidest thing I've ever seen. Because it's going to depreciate in value. It would have been smarter to take that money and put it into an annuity or a GIC. Well, I got more fights. Right. But in your next fight, you could lose your eyesight. Or you could get knocked out and suffer brain damage. It's no guarantee in this sport. But Berto didn't listen, didn't care.
Oh, yeah.
And now I was going to say Roberto Garcia, but not him. He's a trainer. But I can't remember the guy's name now. Fought Mayweather, too. Wife had cancer and beat it.
Really?
Yeah, but this is a rematch of Berto, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Guys at that age getting in the ring and fighting.
Yeah, no, it's kind of sad. The one we're all waiting for, though, we gotta watch this one. The 25th, Las Vegas, Benavidez, Andrade, Charlo, Benavidez. This can be a good card. I can't wait to see it. I like watching Benavidez. Honestly, is it just me, or is he like one of the only soft-looking professional athletes going right now in boxing? Like, he could literally stand to lose a couple of pounds and come down, and he would probably just crush it. But
yeah,
maybe he wouldn't be the same fighter if he lost that weight.
Who knows? I mean, sometimes it affects their power, and some guys just don't have the musculature.
Right.
He
doesn't look like he lifts weights.
No.
It looks like he might run, he might swim, but he's got the stamina. We know that he can go the distance, and he can be dangerous from start to the finish, whether it's 12 rounds, 10 rounds, it doesn't matter. He at any point in time he can unleash a barrage of punches that's 20, 30 shots. Half of them will be unanswered, and he lets those hands go like awesomely.
I'd love to see both Charlos lose. The lack of respect they showed to other fighters and to fans and to people in the sport is irredeemable.
Yeah.
You can't treat them that way.
Well, first of all, you came in 3 pounds, man. 3 pounds over.
That's a lack of respect for your sport, yourself, and your opponent.
It's also a lack of respect for your opponent.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
What happens now? Did you get like a night to lose it, or?
You know what? I didn't read more into it. It's just at that point I just don't even care,
because he's going to rehydrate 20 pounds at least.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it's what, he probably just didn't get. Well, it is Thanksgiving, right? So maybe he skipped one of his sauna sessions, because you can lose 2 to 3 pounds in a sauna, no problem.
Yeah, but when Arturo Gatti fought Joey Gamache, it resulted in a lawsuit because Gamache suffered brain damage. And the late, great Johnny Boss, who I loved, he was managing Gamache. He would always say to me, "I love what you're saying, Lou, but you're full of shit, and I'll tell you why."
He wasn't holding back.
And he has a great collection of boxing photographs going back over 100 years, autograph ones. But he said, at the weigh-in, Gotti got on the scale. There was a 140, and the scale was like 144. And then some guy went up and fiddled with it, and he got back on and says, 140. And Boss said, just a sec, don't touch anything. And the commissioners there said to the security, take him, get him out. Pointed at Boss. He said, I haven't said anything. I'm trying to protect my fighter. The scales are off. Your guy weighed in 4 pounds over the limit. Come on, let's do it again. You're suspended. And he's like, what are you trying to pull here? And of course, after he sued the New York State Commission, and he won. Took him 10 years, but the scales were fixed. Gotti weighed. So Gamache weighed in at 140. He rehydrated to 146. Gotti rehydrated to 164.
Right.
And so he almost killed Gamache. So,
well, you know, that's
often.
It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. You know, that the whole hydration thing. But these guys are fighting at a catchweight too, and he's about to end. I believe it's like a 25 or 29-month layoff.
Right.
So you know he's been out of the ring for a while. So the fact that he even made it, you know, he came in. I think it was 3.4 pounds above the contracted catch weight of 163, and he was, you know, he went back. He came back and he weighed in even heavier at 166.6.
How do you do that?
Going home and eating a turkey sandwich.
I told you, that's like the John Candy sketch in SCTV. Was playing a boxer. Remember, in Joe Flaherty's, after 8 weeks of training, he's gained 40 pounds. And Joe Flaherty's lose weight. Oh, so yeah, so you're not supposed to gain weight when you get off the scales. You know, one of the worst things boxing did in the early 1900s was black fighters had to weigh in moments before the fight, whereas the white fighter could weigh in the day before. And so black fighters had no time to rehydrate. So if you were going on between 8 and 10, you'd have to weigh in if you were black at 7 p.m.
Oh, wow.
And this was in force for a long time. So today, I mean, they should go back to same-day weigh-ins. I mean, if you can't make the weight, then you're in that higher weight class. Fight someone else.
Yeah.
This is how people get hurt.
Yeah, no, it is. It's true. It's true. So, yeah, Charlie came back, weighed even heavier. You know, I give it to him, though. To even, you know, 29-month layoff, you end that. You know, his last fight was 2021. So, you know, and that was against, I believe, Montiel. And that was a unanimous decision. And that's the last time he's been in the ring. So, you know, shout out to him. Yeah, that was June. It was in June of 2021. That last fight was. He had the unanimous decision victory over the Juan Macias Montiel. And you know they agreed to it. Montiel wanted the catch weight at 163. It's going to be the highest weight that Charlo, I believe, has fought in his career. But he's definitely showing that he walks around at a hell of a lot heavier than that if he's not able to, not able to shave it off. So, you know, he's probably coming in at 175, 180 when he's in there, man.
Yeah,
he looks big at times. He does look big at times.
Is he paying a fine or?
I didn't see anything about a fine because it's not a title fight. It's just kind of like a catch weight. Here you go. So, you know, it's a filler. It's, hey man, you got a name. We haven't seen you in, you know, almost 3 years going on here. It's time to get your ass back in the ring. So, we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens. It should be a good one though. Also. Daniel Dubois, if he loses to Jerome Miller, his career might be over. You guys hearing this?
When is this fight?
This fight's coming up. When is that one coming up? I want to say.
Well, I was mentioning that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if Daniel Dubois loses a foot race, Miller, his career's over. But I can't see Miller beating him in the ring. No,
I couldn't see that either.
I mean, unless Dubois had like a buffet attached to his back, in which case Miller would beat him up easily. But no, Miller has no chance.
Yeah, no. I think it's going to be you know, the next couple of weeks here, we have a lot of great fight cards coming up. I love this time of year. You know, as we get close to Christmas, we get to see, you know, all these fights that have been in the making for an entire damn year, and then some of them actually happen, and then other ones don't because, you know, we got all these ducking and dodging, you know, male pugilists out here. We got females that don't even give a crap and they'll just get in there and bang with anybody. So the women are definitely showing up the men.
They'll bang with anyone, and they'll fight.
Yeah, they'll bang with anyone.
And they'll put the gloves on and swap leather. You know.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Bam Rodriguez Sonny Edwards fight.
That's gonna be a great fight.
Yeah.
Great fight. Bam Rodriguez, Sonny Edwards. That one's gonna be for the WBO flyweight title and Edwards IBF flyweight title. So they both got a title on the line here. Somebody's walking out with two.
Yeah, I don't see anyone beating Bam Rodriguez.
So Sonny Edwards is a very wiry young man, though.
Yeah, he's a great fighter, without a doubt.
Great fighter. He's got great lateral movement. He's got great ring IQ. He's able to cut that ring off really well, and he's fast. But Bam Rodriguez, what's his rookie of the year? I think he was 2021. He was, prospect of the year. He's had a great, but we haven't seen enough of him. They've slowed down how much they're putting him out there. What I've noticed, like he hasn't, in that prospect year and the couple of years there, they were just pumping him down your throat, and now we don't get to see him enough.
Well, he was great against Sora Rungvisai, and I saw him fight a couple other guys that he dominated. He was just so good. He's relentless. You can't escape him. He's always on top of you, cuts the ring off. Phenomenal power, puts his punches together in quick, short, straight combinations. When is that fight going to be?
That one is happening on December it's not the 9th. The 9th is, I think, is Xander Zayas is fighting. That one is December 16th, I believe. 16th? Yeah, 16th, Glendale, Arizona. This one.
Well, here's a question, Mike. How will it? Has Edwards ever fought in the States before, and you think it will adversely affect him fighting in front of Rodriguez's hometown crowd?
Well, Rodriguez does feed off his fans quite a bit. I know when he's in front of that hometown, I know he's got an extra little giddy up in his step. Edwards hasn't fought in the U yet, but he has fought. He's fought in other places. Just he hasn't come as far as this way. So hopefully his team has got him on some sort of jet lag, build you back up, get you ready to get your ass kicked kind of program. But he's been in Dubai.
Yeah, if they're smart, he'd be in the States now training.
That's exactly. He should be, in there quite early. His fights. He fought 2021. He was in Dubai when he took on Jason Mama. That was unanimous decision over 12 rounds. And then in 2022, he fought Mohamed Wasim. That one went the distance as well. And then Felix Alberto, Andres Campos, and now he's taking on Jesse Rodriguez. So this fight, you could see the way that these guys were coming together.
Right. He also fought Jesse Mama's brother Yo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We should have had the drum, but right there. That should have been.
Sam Kinison used to say, "I've been married so many times. Then my next wedding, I'm gonna have a drummer doing rim shots."
Yeah.
You take her to be your wife, yes, but
Yeah. Oh, God bless Sam Kinison, man. I miss him. He was a great colleague.
He was very funny.
Yeah, he was great. So Rob, the guy was like a TV evangelist, man. Yeah, not my son preaching the Bible, and then all of a sudden it just turned to cocaine and hookers, and then crazy stuff.
The stuff he did, and he would say to someone, "Are you married?" "Yeah." "You remember this?" "Remember this?" People say, "Aren't you afraid of making fun of God?" Why would I be afraid of making fun of God? I was married 3 times. I live in hell. I live in hell.
Yeah. He was so good, man.
Big sports fan, too. When he came to Toronto, I ended up talking with him about boxing and baseball.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. December the 9th, that's going to be a good one, man. Robisi Ramirez back in action. Xander Zayas, Bruce Carrington, Rohan Polanco, and Delonte Johnson. That's a huge card.
And Ramirez is really starting to hit his stride.
Yeah.
In the ring. He's put his ego at the door and is really focused.
He got it checked. He was humbled.
Yeah.
That's just how that works, right? Like they say, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. And you know what? He paid attention and he passed with flying colors. It's hard to see these guys bounce back sometimes from devastating knockouts.
Yeah. I mean, Ray Arcel used to say, the great trainer, in every defeat are sown the seeds of victory. You learn nothing in victory. You learn everything in defeat.
Definitely. Definitely. You know, he's young too. Like he's only 29.
Yeah.
13-1, 8 KOs. You know, he's been pretty active, man. You know, this is gonna be his third fight this year. 2022, another three fights, and he's been pretty consistent over the last couple of years. They're not trying to push him through fast. They're trying to build him slowly so that he is a really good contender.
Right,
He's
a complete fighter exposed to different styles. Yeah. And what I like about Ramirez is, and I was thinking about this, reading about Jack Johnson or Joe Louis, when they made a mistake, they'd always say, but they never made that mistake ever again in their career. And Ramirez is like that. He can make a mistake, but you don't see him repeating them. He learns.
No, true. He does, and it's great. You know, he's a great fighter. I think we'll definitely see him. In the next couple of years, really come into his own. 29. You're just breaking into that old man strength thing that you get. Then you really start to find yourself as a boxer. You really get to start being able to put those skills together that you've been learning, and it's not just like drills. It actually becomes like a game plan in your head, and it's crazy how it all comes together.
Right. That's the key. That's the main key right there to all of boxing. Art Hafey, who was number 1 in the world and beat Ruben Oliveira, said, and because he had a brain bleed, he had to quit Art. But Art said, as you get to 27, 28, 29, you grow into your skills. There's a point at that age where you go, oh, okay, now I get it. Now
it all just clicks.
Yeah,
and I think it takes a lot longer for those guys who have that because they've never really had to step outside of their comfort zone. Like there's times where you see these guys and they fight, and it's like this is gonna be a close one. No, it's not gonna be close because that's the way it's been set up. You just look at the caliber of fighters these guys are fighting from the beginning, and that's what I watch, right? This is why when I profile these guys on my show, these young kids that are up and coming, or sub 5 fights, they've had their debut. I've watched them in the amateurs. You can tell that the ones that are going to be really good to watch. They might not be world champions, but they will be great contenders because they've been fighting good caliber fighters from the beginning. But then that also depends on where you're from, right? That's another thing. If you don't have access to good sparring, good gyms, good coaches, how good can you really get?
That's true. That's true. And there is so much to learn. For instance, Angelo Dundee told me there was a time where he had a fighter came to him, and a fighter's manager, and said, my guy's got a great right hand, but he has trouble landing it. And so Angelo watched his fights, and he said to the kid, your problem is you're predictable. Jab, right hand to the head. Don't do that. He said, next fight, double jab, right hand to the body. Double jab, right hand to the body. And around the 4th round, jab, fake your left, fake another jab, and then throw the right straight to the head. And he did, and he won. It doesn't occur to the fighter. But the guy standing outside the ropes can go, yeah, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of fighters have to grow into their body, too.
They do. And there's a lot of them that do it sooner than later. And one of these kids, I'll tell you, Bruce Carrington, there's one to watch. There's one that is really going to, honestly, is just gonna, it's gonna kill it. He's one of these kids who's had great training. He's got great natural instinct, and he's got power. He's got power now, but he knows when to slow down. He knows when to look for that knockout. He knows when he can't get that knockout, and he can use the arsenal of weapons that he's been taught. And there's a lot of these young guys, which they call blue chip prospects. Really, a blue chip prospect who is just somebody who's been able to get the experience they needed to get like that, right? Yeah. They've been put in front of great coaches. They've been put in front of great amateur fighters. They've been in great tournaments, and it all depends. It's hard, if you're out in butt F, Midwest USA, and you got to drive 4 hours to go get some sparring in. You're not, there's probably a good chance that you're not going to be an undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion.
Right, and this is why I couldn't believe 10 years ago HBO was promoting Seth Mitchell, former football player, and they saying he's got a record of 25-0, but against no one.
Right. Exactly.
And when he started to fight guys that had a bit of a record, they destroyed him. So he didn't know what to do when he got hit, and that happens quite a bit because if you're going to be the world champion, you're going to have to fight these guys sooner or later. So this happens a lot in Canada where guys are protected, like Sean O'Sullivan or Willie DeWitt. And then when they're unleashed against a guy like a Bert Cooper or Simon Brown, they get annihilated. They weren't ready for it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. Like,
yeah.
It's unfortunate. I just want to touch on this comment here. Omega Sean John. Yes. Listen, Shakur did look horrible.
Yes. And that's all right. It happens.
It does. He's getting into his own. That's what it's about.
He apologized for his performance, but I think, was it Devin Haney or someone? I don't know if it was Devin Haney. Someone said, "No one is afraid of Shakur Stevenson."
You know what it is? He's got that like soft looking face. That soft.
He's got a pretty face, but he likes to talk garbage, and I mean I like him. I shouldn't say he talks garbage. I mean I like a lot of what he says.
Right.
I mean he's being honest about certain fights, who won and who didn't, but he didn't look good, and that sometimes happens. Sometimes a corner will say to the fighter, "Win this fight, look good the next time."
Right.
Right. The fans are there to see someone get their face bashed in.
Yeah.
Your job is to win.
Yes.
You want to look good doing it, but if you can't, just get the win and look better next time.
Yeah. Well, it just, I think, it must have been a lot for him. Maybe, he wasn't comfortable. He had an off night. We could tell, come on, he was getting booed.
Yeah.
That fight was getting booed. Yeah. And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, man, I fell asleep.
Well, I'll tell you, he didn't come forward. I mean, they expected him to come forward and try to knock the guy out, make an effort. Yeah. And he wanted to counter punch, and he can do both, but he kept waiting. And the other guy, De Los Santos, he had a round, I think, where it was the lowest amount of punches combined, I think, ever thrown in a fight since CompuBox came in. And the other guy De Los Santos had at the most 9 punches.
Listen, they didn't even need CompuBox to count those friggin' punches, man. You could have done it on one hand.
Yeah, that's true.
These guys are supposed to be the top dogs in the game, man. These guys should be throwing 80, 90 punches around, but
yeah, and they weren't, and people pay good money for that, right? So they.
I don't. Straight up, I don't pay good money for it. I paid no money.
Well, right, but I mean, I've always said this when people see all those celebrities there. Boy, it's good they have money, and no, they don't pay to get in; they're paid to be there. But you have an obligation to your fans and to the sport to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get a fight that's a stinker, and that happens.
Yeah.
In boxing, sometimes you're waiting a year or a couple of years for a great fight, and it comes out and nothing happens because they're both counter punchers. I mean,
right.
We were lucky that
counter punchers can put on a very exciting fight.
Yes.
If they're both very talented counter fighters. If not, you're watching people like the whole fight. Like it's what it comes down to is matchmaking. Right? Yeah. But then it also comes down to these cash cows that these promoters are making their bread and butter on. And if you're making millions of dollars a year off this guy because he fights for you, and then all of a sudden he has a couple of bad losses, he's no longer making those millions of dollars for you. Now you got to go and find another one.
So, I mean, most of the heavyweight champions, let's say up until Gene Tunney, were all counter punchers except for Sullivan, James J. Jeffries, and Dempsey. No one had ever seen anything like Dempsey.
No.
before. He came out to kill you in every fight. And so that's
like an early Mike Tyson.
Right. And Dempsey, they said, used to fight like his car was double parked. So he
yeah, definitely. He get in, get out, man. Shit, man, I got the meter going. Go.
Yeah, and Dempsey would spend hours a day, every day, soaking his hands in beef brine.
Yeah.
And his face, so the skin became tough and leathery. And using 5-ounce gloves, with very little padding, I mean, he had no problem beating the crap out of people.
No, that's true.
And he was a much better fighter. Guys like that in Tyson are much better fighters than people realize. That almost everyone he fought was bigger than him. Dempsey was 6'1". He wasn't small, but he knew that if I crowd them, their height and reach mean nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Most heavyweights can't fight going backwards, and the one that could was Gene Tunney, and he beat him. Ali could fight going backwards, so could Holmes, but that's very rare for any fighter.
It is. Honestly, when you see a fighter that can go backwards, it's just because they've been taught footwork very, very early in the stages of their development.
Right.
What it is.
That's exactly it. Ali used to train running backwards.
Yeah. You see it all the time. You see it all the time in the gyms. You got the guy on the rubber bands, coach is holding him, and he's doing those backward sprints. And it's that has to start early. You can't start that too late, because if you start it late, then it doesn't work with everything else. You kind of always you look kind of off.
Right, and that's why today in baseball, when kids are starting out at 7 or 6 or 8, coaches try to make them switch hitters. Gives them more of a chance of making the big leagues and opens up the field more.
Yeah.
And you get a guy like Crawford, and Crawford, is equally adept at southpaw and as a righty. And and like you said, teaching them young the entire range of boxing skill is the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It's part of laying the foundation.
Yeah.
You get in there. When you start this stuff, you're going to throw 10,000 jabs. You're going to throw 10,000 rights, but you got to be dancing around doing it. You can't just be standing still.
Well, this is what I loved about Dempsey.
Yeah.
When he fought Jess Willard, Dempsey said he was afraid for his life. He said, Willard's 6'7", 260. And so my manager told me not to look at him. He was right. And so when the fight starts, Dempsey didn't come forward. Willard came forward, which he wasn't comfortable with. And Dempsey was dancing around and giving angles. And Willard would stop and say, fight. And Dempsey was waiting for the right time, and then explodes with the 4-punch combination ending with the left hook. But Dempsey knew how to move. And he said, when you're hurt, the smart thing isn't to run. Smart thing is to get in close so he doesn't have room to hit you again. So
yes.
A lot of fighters, younger fighters, don't know.
It's something when I was doing my boxing back long time ago. I started boxing probably 12 years old. I left boxing for hockey, and then after hockey, I got into Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu, and it's that foundation, man. That foundation from boxing allowed me to be able to move quickly through Thai because I was good on my feet already, and it was honestly, I think my coach instilled that in me. Like, instead of hitting a bag first, I learned how to use my feet first so that I could dance around. And it was a week before I even threw a punch and hit a bag.
Yeah, it's hard to hit a moving target.
Yeah.
And Jack Johnson said the best thing that ever happened to him in boxing is when Jewish Joe Kowinski knocked him out in 4 rounds. And after they were arrested, it was in Galveston, Texas. Boxing was illegal. But for that 1 month in prison, he said Kowinski showed him everything. So Kowinski said, you're almost 6'2". You shouldn't be fighting on the inside.
Right.
And you got a long reach. You should be fighting on the perimeter. You got to use that jab. Also, he said, don't throw lead right hands. He said, turn this way hide your right hand with your jab.
Yeah.
And he showed him all the stuff about how to slip punches, slide punches. He said the key, Johnson, he said the key to winning a fight is to use your opponent's momentum against them. Most guys then just rush in face first. Yeah. So he said, just step aside and let him run right into your hand.
And that's how these small guys are able to, have these wonderful, KO percentages. Like,
right.
You got these bantamweight guys that are, 25 wins and they got 25 knockouts. I take shits bigger than these guys, and they're knocking people out all day.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, thanks for the vigil, but yeah. Couldn't resist. But I was at a boxing gym several years ago, and as you know, there's a lot of guys teaching that may be athletic instructors, they're not boxing instructors. So a friend of mine, Ori Cox, who's a former fighter, Ori had this young girl who was 5'1".
Yeah.
I think she was a flyweight or bantamweight. So he asked me to give some pointers. And I said, I'm a writer, but you were trained by Angelo Dundee. Right, but I'll give you what I think, but doesn't. Anyways, so the guy who was training her, this other guy, said, no, stand straight up. And I said, a person that short should be crouching to make herself less of a target. Standing straight up is just asking to get hit.
Oh,
yeah. And he disagreed. And I said, so Angelo Dundee and Ray Arcel and Charlie Goldman and Emmanuel Stewart and all these guys with over 100 champions between them are wrong, but you're right.
Yeah.
Said, no, you don't stand straight up like this in a fight with your head up like that. Dempsey had his arm or had his chin checked in, right in the shoulder like that. And Charlie Goldman, who worked with Terry Marciano, said, if you're short, make yourself shorter. If you're tall, make yourself taller. Take the disadvantage, use it as a strength.
But see, there's also this is one thing that I've noticed. Like I'm watching these young and up and comers, for years, and it takes a certain one to pique my interest enough to really start following them. It's because sometimes they got the wrong coach for the wrong guy.
That's quite
you can't have a small guy who fights on the inside teach a guy who's 7 feet tall. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. You might be able to teach him some stuff, but there are things that he has to learn that only somebody that has the same kind of structure as him can teach. Like you got for example, you got Sebastian Findora. This kid is like almost 7 feet tall and he fights on the inside, man.
Yeah, that's silly.
It's ridiculous. And look, he just got knocked out. He got knocked out hard.
Right, by Brian Castano, but he would have more power from a distance because he'd have more punching room. It's just physics.
Yeah.
I can't even spell the word, but it's just physics. He would have more power if he gave himself more room. He's throwing the punch across his body. Give yourself more room. He's taking away his own power by fighting in close. It makes no sense. And to your point, further to your point, a lot of trainers who are boxers, Tim always says you can't train unless you're a boxer, but that's BS. So many boxers train fighters in the style that they fought.
Yes.
That guy may not be a good boxer technically, or he may not be a slugger. You got to be amenable to what that guy can do. One of the best trainers is Buddy McGirt. Buddy can take any style and bring the most out of a fighter. Same with Roberto Garcia. But
you know what though, and it's people like McGirt that know that there might be things that he might not be able to teach.
Okay.
So he doesn't mind having other people help out. Like
and
you gotta humble yourself.
When Angelo had Muhammad, he'd also bring in Harry Wiley, who was the trainer of Sugar Ray Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And then he brought in Luis Seria, who was a big trainer in Cuba, became the masseuse. But he was always happy to have another trainer come in and say, what do you think? I mean, Charlie Goldman changed George Chuvalo's career in '64 before Chuvalo knocked out Doug Jones, who was ranked number 3 in the heavyweight division. He said to George at Gleason's gym, why are you throwing punches wide out the window? You guys can see them coming 5 feet away, and you're not going to hit them. And he said, he got in the ring. He said, stand like this, taped his feet to the canvas. He said, push off your back foot, twist at the hip, shoot from the shoulder. That's how you throw it, straight. He said, it fatigues you, and when it gets there, it's got nothing on it. Throw straight. Use your weight.
Yeah, it's about maximizing the perfect timed punch and the perfect amount of strength and timing it as that person's coming in. Right? That's the recipe. That's where you stir that pot up and buddy goes, right? That's it.
Well, Dan Morley from England. We both know Dan.
Yeah.
And he has this thing now, the top 50 fighters or top 100 fighters. And I love it. And he had a clip of my favorite, Rockabye Ruben Olivares, bantamweight and featherweight champ. And Ruben had over 80 or 90 knockouts. And against, elite level fighters. And you see the way he would hit them with that right hand. Wow. Yeah. And then the left hand and another right. And there was no counting ever. But once they hit the canvas, the referee was like that. Guy didn't move.
He doesn't move. That's when you know the guy has been really knocked. Like, I go through it. I look for the knockout of the week. Sorry, fans, it hasn't been up for a while. That's because you know what? A lot of these knockouts that I've been finding are just bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna award a knockout of the week if it ain't worth it. I'm not just gonna do it for the sake of doing it. Too many times do I see the ref step in, either let it go or just fucking stay in the corner, man.
Yeah. It's not like we don't have a Lady Bing candidate this year in the NHL, so we'll just give it to Ryan Reeves, who's an enforcer. You don't do that.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here's this sad out here. Hey guys, welcome to the knockout show. Hey, look at this sad knockout. Now we're gonna hand out participation, ribbons to everybody.
Ring Magazine in the past has not handed out a Fighter of the Year award because they said no one distinguished himself that year.
Yeah,
and that's all right to do that.
And you know what? Honestly, I'm finding now that the pandemic really did put a hurt on the sport, big time.
Yeah,
really. Not only were people ducking and dodging, people were getting soft.
Yeah,
the refs are getting soft. The judges are getting soft.
Well, referee and judging has been a problem for a long time in boxing. It's gotten worse in every sport, but there's too many fights in boxing. I spoke to a judge who said to me that I don't have to explain my card to you. And I said, you're right. I'm just wondering how that guy got scored 3 knockdowns, and you scored the fight a draw.
Because he was watching a different fight.
Yeah. It's not possible mathematically.
No.
Each knockdown came in a different round. So those are 10-8 rounds, right? And it's a 4-round fight.
You can tell who the guy was they used to sway the fight in the direction that they wanted. You can always see it, man. Yeah. As soon as you line those cards up together and you're like, look at this one, and then you're like, what was this guy watching?
Well,
he's probably just sitting there like this. Oh, yeah, watch my phone. Oh, yeah, whatever.
It drives fans away and they don't come back. The best example of that was the 1987 May fight between Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Now, Hagler didn't want the British judge, who was a really good judge, Terry Gibbs,
right?
Because when he beat Minter for the title, people in England threw bottles at him. So he took it out on a guy he didn't know, and so they replaced him with Joe Guerra, WBC judge, no experience. He scores the fight for Leonard, 11 rounds, or he scored it. I think like 11 rounds to 1 for Leonard or something.
Oh wow!
And the sad thing was Gibbs, when they told him he wasn't working the fight, he still stayed there. He did the broadcast for BBC, and he scored it for Hagler, 8 rounds to 4. If Hagler hadn't objected, he would have come out with the win.
Yeah,
split decision. But because he objected, they got a terrible judge, and judges like that never pay for it. They fail upwards in boxing.
Yeah, they do.
And it just can't be.
And Hagler was a different breed. That man ran 15 miles instead of 10.
Yeah.
He
wasn't going to give you a chance to beat him just on conditioning alone. And he beat Vito Anna for the title, and they called it a draw. And that was Vegas. So unlike other fighters, and Russell Peltz, who I had on my show, Hagler, when he started his career, was thrown into the deep end. He was fighting guys in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
No one wanted to fight him.
That was a different era of boxing. That's when men were actually men. Men got in there and fought men. Champions fought champions. Hey, you're calling your guy the number 1 in the world? Hey, well, our promotion says we're the number 1 in the world. Let's get them together and see who actually number 1 is.
Yeah, and he lost a fight in Philly, which he legitimately lost. He lost another one where the promoter, Russell Peltz, apologized to him and said, sorry, but that judge is just a criminal, and it's not the first time he's done it. But then Hagler came back against the same opponent, knocked him out in a round.
Oh, yeah.
And did it twice more. So it's the same as when the mob ripped off Carmen Basilio against Johnny Saxton in Chicago, and they gave the fight to Saxton.
The Chicago mob's hands were so deep in boxing.
Yeah, and Frankie Carbo from New York and Blinky Palermo from Philly, and they robbed Basilio, and they asked Basilio after the fight, what now? And he said, I guess I'm going to have to kill him.
Yeah, right.
And it was chilling when he said it because he was serious. I guess that's what they want me to do. So he fought Saxton twice more, and he butchered him.
Yeah.
He had him, he knocked him out, I think, in 8 rounds and then in 2 rounds. But in the rematch, in the 4th or 5th round, there were a couple of times where he hit him a right hand and Saxton's knee sagged, and Basilio walked away. He wanted him to recover to punish him.
Yeah, of course. But that was a different time. That was a way different time. Boxers have respect for each other. You're not gonna hit a guy when you know that he's that hurt. You know what I mean? And you do see some restraint. Nowadays they're not fighting hard enough to see that restraint. I almost believe that since the introduction of the 4-belt era, so we're talking about 2004, it really fell off.
Yeah.
It really fell off since the introduction of the 4-belt era because I think people just didn't know where they stood in the rankings.
Well, the other thing, too, in reading the book about Arturo Gatti and Joe Gatti, was that Arturo, there were times with certain sanctioning bodies, the criminal bodies, where he just said, take the belt. I'm not paying your sanctioning fee. Sorry.
Yeah, right? Like, the sanctioning fees are ridiculous.
Well, said the original one was $50,000 for this fight. How did it get to $275,000?
Yeah, it's literally, what is it? It's 3% upwards to a maximum of $300,000 per sanctioning body. So that means out of your purse, if you're fighting for the undisputed, you're putting up $1.2 million.
Yeah,
just for those belts.
Right, and Ali, when they took the belts from him illegally, he said, "Keep them. The world knows I'm still the best. I don't need your belts to prove it."
Exactly. And Ali would have made his own belt.
That's right. And the WBA took the belt from Ali after he beat Liston because Ali had the gall to change his name legally and his religion. And so when people talk about the WBA, you can't respect them after they did that to Ali.
No. That was straight BS.
Yeah, and that makes their belt worthless to me. Same, all those organizations I said before. WBA without brains attached, WBC we be criminals, IBF international boxing felons, and I'm not sure what I had for WBO, but just they're all criminal organizations, and they don't care about the fighters, and never have. I've been asking the WBC, Michael, for 20 years, what have you done with the money when you have these Tissot watches you sell or give to the fighters? You have all these conferences to raise money for indigent fighters. And I'm telling you, Canadian fighters that fought for you, that need the money. And they go, it's not our job I don't have to give you an answer.
We get the shit end of the stick when it comes to boxing. It's one of those just horrible things. It sucks. But you know what? We can blame one person, really. Ken. We can blame Ken. He kind of ruined boxing for us here in Canada.
Absolutely. I offered to interview him, and I said, I'm not going to edit the interview. Just one interview. No. Well, can
honestly,
I ask you questions?
If you would have interviewed him, I would have blown up the comment section with so much crap.
Well, I tell you, he I said, will you at least tell me why I can't interview you? No, I don't owe you anything at all. I work in an office full of lawyers.
Yeah. He was ridiculous. He was ridiculous. Guys out there in boxing land, if you don't know Ken Hayashi, look him up. See what he did to us here in Canada. He single-handedly ruined. We didn't have a great development program after the Olympics anyway. Let's be real. That's why.
That's true, but he made it so difficult for people to put on fights. He scared away the UFC, and And he just made it so difficult that people had to pay so much more for various things. One of Hayashi's favorite things, as I've said before, was a fighter would show up at the office and you'd say, where are the medicals? And it would be, the fight would be Saturday, this would be Wednesday. He said, the medicals were done 2 days ago in Montreal. Okay, well, I don't care. I want new ones now.
Yeah.
And this would be 9 a.m. So they go,
yeah.
okay, I have to pay for this now. They pay for it. They come back at 11 and they say, Mr. Hatch. So what does that mean?
Or
you don't pay your license.
One of the good stories I heard was not keeping doctors ringside after the fight's over.
Yeah.
Literally, as soon as the fight's done, send the doctor away. You know, there's still the possibility of, you know, a brain bleed where, you know, buddy steps out of the ring, you know, bang, he's down on the ground. No doctor there. Promoters, he bankrupted so many promotional companies, you know, by not allowing them to fill spots last minute. Oh, well, he's not approved. No. Oh, no, we're not going to approve him. It's not enough time. You're doing this three hours before a card goes on. And you're talking about a main event fight.
He overstepped his purview because really the commissioner, according to the law, is supposed to provide referees, judges, doctors. He's supposed to guarantee that the tickets are legitimate.
Yeah.
But his main function is collecting federal and provincial tax money. He's not there. And this goes all the way back to the idiot Merv McKenzie when Chevalo fought Ali for the title, and he wouldn't allow it to be called a title fight, world title fight, everywhere else it was except Ontario, because he didn't think Chevalo was good enough. And yet Irv Ungerman said to Merv McKenzie, he's rated in the top 3 in the world. How is he not good enough?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. But it's not for you to think so.
This
is your job to think so.
Right. You know what? On that note, we are at over the hour. Lou, it's always a pleasure talking to you. The fans out there, thanks for tuning in. Grumpy Graham disappeared. I know he's somewhere in the back. I know we kind of just took over the show and had him sit there and just, you know, and we entertained him tonight. So thanks, Grumpy Graham, for joining us tonight. Are you coming out of the green room? He's still grumpy, guys. So you're gonna have to tune in next week, Friday, same time, same channel, new topics. You know what it is, man, guys. TalkinFight.com. Yes.
One thing. I pick Andrade tomorrow by decision. Who do you got?
I'm gonna stick with my man. I'm gonna stick with him.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride it to the end. You know, I'm one of those guys. I stick behind it. I go down with the ship.
Yeah, me too.
If I was on the Titanic, I'd be that guy that was playing the violin right to the end.
I'd be the guy at the buffet stealing food, putting it in my pockets.
Well, actually, I'm Irish, so I probably would have been locked in the bottom like all the other ones.
Oh, no.
Well, that's according to the movie.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. All right. Talking Fight fans, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. We'll see you next week, man. Same time, same channel, new topics. Peace.
Be well, my friend.